I'll be honest, I've been struggling with writing my next short film. There's been one question on my mind lately. How do you write a good story? We consume stories constantly, whether it's a movie, a book, or a conversation you hear in the park. With the amount of stories we do hear, you'd think we'd all be brilliant storytellers. But why is it so complicated to put into practice? I decided to start reading How to Tell a Story from the Moth, a non-profit organization dedicated to the craft of storytelling, to research this. The Moth says a well-crafted story invokes stakes, involves a transformation, and communicates a level of vulnerability. And suddenly, I had an idea. What if I broke down some of my favorite stories to understand why they work and to find the idea for my next short film? Because once you know the rules, it's easier to understand how to break them and create something new. And of course I knew which film I would start with. When I was a kid, I was pretty shy, and so I spent a lot of my time writing stories and watching movies. When I first watched this film, I instantly fell in love with it. It said to that shy girl, it's okay to be different. Even you can do extraordinary things. That's the first thing I want to discuss. How to Train Your Dragon has a clear message. And to understand how such an impactful message was crafted, first we need to start at the beginning. The story starts by introducing Hiccup, our main protagonist, during a dragon attack on their village burg. In the setup, we learn 3 crucial facts. 1, dragons are the enemy. 2, Vikings kill dragons. And 3, Hiccup doesn't fit in. We know that this world at the start of his story is unaccepting towards dragons, which means that the transformation of the world at the end of the story will lean towards acceptance. And of course we can't get there without conflict. Conflict can be characterized in many ways. There are internal struggles such as a person versus themselves, or external, where it's a person versus another person, or versus nature. There are tons of variations. Often there are several types of conflict at play, but the theme will tell you which one will be the main story and the through line for your audience. The setup can also be a mini blueprint for the rest of the story.
Hiccup! What is he doing out again?
Here, Hiccup disobeys his dad, which tells us that this is going to be a story about a boy finding his own voice in his father's world. And this inspired my first idea for my next short film. I like to think of the theme as a tree. The roots that grow into the trunk is the main storyline between Stoic and Hiccup, and will deliver the thematic message straight to the end. But each different relationship Hiccup has with other characters also explore different branches of the theme, which are vital to create the whole picture. To connect each character's arc directly to the theme, each character is also motivated by a goal related to or in conflict with the theme of self-acceptance. Hiccup, the protagonist, wants to belong. Stoic, the antagonist of the film, wants to protect Hiccup. Toothless, Hiccup's reflection, wants to be understood. And Astrid, Hiccup's rival and love interest, wants to prove herself. Now that we have established character motivations, a problem that needs to be solved, and a central conflict, this takes us to the inciting incident. Inciting incidents are often described as the thing that kicks off the story, the first moment that shifted everything or set things in motion, or a pattern is broken. During this scene, Hiccup finds a night fairy he captured and tries to kill it. We know dragons are dangerous from the establishing scene of the dragon battle. This is a really good example of using an extreme assumption to heighten the stakes of a scene. Moth says, stakes are what give a story urgency and energy. They create tension. They fill the listener with excitement or dread, and they give them a reason to go on this ride with you. Clear stakes establish why you care, which tell us why we should care. After reading that, I realized that we know why Hiccup wants to kill this dragon. He wants his father's acceptance, and he may lose that if he fails. We also believe that this dragon may kill Hiccup, so we really feel the tension and conflict when Hiccup risks his life and father's acceptance to let the dragon free. This introduces two important things for the story. One, the dramatic question, why did the dragon let Hiccup live? And two, the parallel character arcs between Hiccup and Toothless. This is also the first crack in Hiccup's worldview, but it's also a simple and effective way to develop connection between characters by having each character mimic each other, something we often do in real friendships to show commonality. The first act turn is the protagonist's first key decision in response to the inciting incident. While watching, I felt like the moment Hiccup decides to return to Toothless is his key decision that diverts him from his father's path for the first time. But what motivates this change in Hiccup? In some parent-child-centered stories, parents often try to shape their children into mini versions of themselves. This usually has the opposite desired effect, where it motivates their children to differentiate themselves from their parents. As children start to divert away and explore their own identities, parents try to rein them in with different methods of control or conditioning.
Är det så jävla jobbigt att sitta ner och äta en liten jävla tårta?
Stoic decides to put Hiccup through Dragon Training Camp, which forces him to learn the Viking way, but functions as a way for him to challenge his father's beliefs head on. Here, Hiccup learns an important part of the Viking paradigm.
Remember, a dragon will always go for the kill.
The beauty of this is that Hiccup knows this isn't true. This contradiction is what makes Hiccup question his father's rhetoric. And I had my second tool. And now we move on to Act 2. During this part of the second act, a character will make progress towards their goal after their first key decision. One key realization I had is that the bond between Hiccup and Toothless is structured through mirrored character arcs, where their growth parallels each other, and we, the audience, can see the distinct connection between them. When you look at Hiccup's and Toothless's arcs, you can see the similarities between the shared growth and experiences, and even in smaller actions too. There are also parallels between Hiccup going through Viking dragon training and conducting his own with Toothless. The genius of these parallel arcs is that Hiccup can use what he learns from the dragon world to get ahead in the Viking world. As Hiccup starts to intertwine his two worlds, his own beliefs split farther from his father's, and he starts to realize Vikings and dragons can not only get along, but they can thrive together. And I had my next tool. When you zoom out, Act 1, Hiccup is trying to be someone that he is not. Act 2 is him learning about who he is, but he's still pretending to everyone else and eventually won't last. And Act 3 is when he must finally choose to be himself, no matter if he will get rejected. What is key for the second act is that Hiccup's choice to pretend heightens the stakes between him and his father, because now Stoic believes that he is like him.
You're doing so well in the ring. We finally have something to talk about.
Toothless is the vessel for this change in Hiccup, and gives him the chance to grow into who he is meant to be, a dragon rider. The first flight scene is a pivotal point where Hiccup must make the leap to trusting his instincts in a moment of crisis. This part of the story is really about Hiccup learning to believe in himself. Every obstacle Hiccup overcomes, with Toothless's help, builds his confidence, and is all leading to the inevitable confrontation with his father. During the midpoint, typically it is a moment that redirects the plot. A hero thinks they have things figured out when the rug is pulled from under their feet. Hiccup has come a long way now since the beginning. And since we care about Hiccup, we feel the tension as the stakes give us questions as Hiccup moves forward. Will he convince his father? Will him and Toothless get found out? This all comes to a head when Hiccup gets chosen as a dragon killer instead of Astrid. Their relationship is really important to the main message because we are led to believe that she is the most Viking-like out of all of Hiccup's peers. But while she is Hiccup's rival, she is also his love interest, which means that there is a potential for Hiccup to convince her to understand his truth. And what better way of convincing than a free dragon ride? Convincing Astrid gives Hiccup the courage to confront his father. And then the reversal comes in, which to me was when Hiccup and Astrid find the nest and then the truth of the dragons. There is an even bigger threat to both the dragons and Vikings. This foreshadows the crisis and raises the stakes for what Hiccup has to do next. During the second act turn, the main character switches their strategy, which brings them closer to their need and furthest away from their want. This choice propels the story into Act 3. Everything has led to this moment. Hiccup must kill a dragon as part of his final round of dragon training, and everyone is watching. This is Hiccup's opportunity to show everyone the truth, but the stakes are incredibly high. He is risking his life, his relationship with his father, his newfound acceptance, and his friendship with Toothless to reveal his truth.
What is he doing? I'm not one of them.
This choice directly confronts everything Stoic stands for. The most crucial part of this is not that the dragon Hiccup faces causes a crisis, but it's the inability for Stoic to accept his son that causes the crisis.
I said stop the fight!
Hiccup fails because of Stoic. Had Stoic not intervened, Hiccup might have been able to show the whole village his truth. Stoic needs to realize for himself his own mistake to complete his arc, and resolve his relationship with his son. This leads us into the crisis. The crisis is where all seems lost. The protagonist is farthest away from their want and need. Stoic takes Toothless and separates him from Hiccup. Stoic won't listen to Hiccup either and takes the rest of the village to destroy the dragon nest. This is the real crisis.
You've thrown your lot in with them. You're not a Viking. You're not my son.
Stoic still can't accept Hiccup. Stoic realizes that Hiccup has embraced what he fears, and we are left wondering, how the heck is Hiccup gonna get out of this one? During the climactic moment, Hiccup must make a choice that will determine if he succeeds or fails. Hiccup chooses not to give up and to use what Toothless taught him to go after his dad and save everyone. To do that, he must fully accept and believe in himself. So, Hiccup teaches the other Viking kids to befriend and ride dragons. Over on the island, the real danger of the Green Death is revealed, and Stoic realizes that he, not Hiccup, put everyone in danger. Hiccup arrives and attempts to save Toothless, who is still captive on a now sinking ship. For Stoic to complete his arc, he must accept Hiccup for who he is and what he stands for. So the story sets up a situation where Toothless and Hiccup are both in danger, and Stoic must decide if he is also going to save Toothless.
I'm sorry. I'm proud to call you my son. Thanks, Dad.
This is the pinnacle of the story. Stoic saving Toothless gets me every time because he's doing more than just saving a dragon. He's accepting his son and his beliefs. During the resolution, Hiccup and Toothless defeat the Green Death, but not without a cost. This is such a perfect visual reflection of each other and a final transformation for Hiccup. Their parallel arcs are now complete. This is a great example of circular storytelling. Having these details come back is satisfying for the audience. Specificity is important throughout a story, but relating the end of the story to the beginning reminds the listener of where we have all collectively just come from. The end is set up in the beginning, and the beginning informs the end. There's narrative balance. And I had my final tool. So altogether, a unified theme, a compelling father-son story, mirrored character arcs, a circular narrative, and contradictions create one of my favorite stories of all time. After finishing the film, I looked back at the key takeaways that I had. My goal with my next short film is to make something short but impactful. How to Train Your Dragon got me thinking about my grandparents a lot lately and staying connected with them as I get older. And with my grandparents in mind and the list of tools nearby, I started to write. I worked day and night. After giving it a go myself, I am still asking myself the question, how do you write a good story? While I believe it comes down to what story you want to tell, one thing that I learned from How to Train Your Dragon is that it takes time. I came across this documentary made during the making of the film. What surprised me was that several key elements of the story weren't written into the final draft of the script.
I think that at every point, at every screening, he was just saying, guys, there are moments in this movie that are adventurous and they're special and they're unique, and then you have a whole third act that kind of sits there and feels very expected. It's like, push it harder, go for the emotion, find something that's fresh and inventive. In conjunction with that idea that the story team had thrown out, which we always liked and we just never thought we could do, the idea that Hiccup doesn't make this through unscathed. And after our last preview, Jeffrey came out of it, and I saw him at the concession stand, and he just said, that foot's half the movie. He said, it's half the effect of what you're left with at the end of the movie.
Writing impactful stories is never a linear path, but finding what works in the stories you like is part of the process of finding your voice, and all these tools can help along the way. Because nothing is better than when you finally show your story to someone after all the ups and downs of creating, and you realize that you created something truly meaningful. If you've stuck around to the end, thank you so much for watching. I'll be analyzing other films and shows soon, but in the meantime, I would love to get your feedback on this video to make the next ones even better. What stories would you like to see, and what writing techniques are you interested in learning more about? Lastly, what do you think makes a good story? I'd love to hear below. Thanks for watching!